Has he ever looked at you when he thought you weren't watching? That small change in his voice when he speaks only to you? The part of us we don't control doesn't lie. Even if his words are careful, his deepest self has already made a choice, and that choice is you. What if I told you that the man who sometimes confuses you with mixed messages is actually more in love than he even knows? Carl Jung found that our strongest feelings go around the thinking part of our mind and show up through small actions we can't stop. When a man's inner self sees yours, his body reveals what his mouth hasn't said yet. Many women mistake quietness for not caring, but the truth might be the opposite. The most honest kind of love doesn't announce itself with big actions. It quietly changes his whole world in ways neither of you fully understood until now. These are the clear signs that his soul has picked you. Even if his mind hasn't understood it yet, that man who might confuse you with his silence, his distant way, or sudden closeness, could be much more in love with you than he himself thinks. This is because love doesn't always come with clear thinking or open words. Sometimes it enters through dreams, through the way he looks at you when he doesn't know you're watching, through how his behavior shifts with you and only with you. Jung said that what we don't bring to our awareness appears in life as if by fate, and this is true for love too. If he hasn't yet become aware of what he feels, his deeper self is already taking action for him. Before we go on, I want you to write this word, resonance. Do it not just for me, do it for yourself. Because when you write a word that feels right to you, you let your soul accept what it already knows. Write resonance. If something inside you felt a connection when you heard this message, if some part of you felt understood by these words, write resonance and let the universe reply. So, how can you know if he's truly in love? What signs does his inner self, his heart, his deepest feelings give you, even if he never speaks them? This will not be a simple look at the situation. I won't talk about phone messages or common romantic ideas. We are going to explore what Jung called the signs of the soul, into how a man shows himself when something inside him is moved every time you are near, even if he doesn't fully understand it. And before we move on, I want you to pay close attention to every sign, because often the mistake we make is waiting for formal declarations, promises, or huge actions. And we miss the most important thing, the way someone changes their inner world when you are a part of it. Jung taught that true love is not chosen, it is not planned. It shows up as a strong, certain force that breaks down our shields and connects us to the most basic part of who we are. So, open your gut feeling, your ability to sense things, and watch the following. If that man does even one of these things, if you've seen him act in any of these ways, it means he is deeply affected by you and likely much more in love than his thinking mind is ready to admit. I'll show you these signs one by one, from the smallest to the most telling. It's not just about knowing if he loves you, but about seeing how a person's soul reacts to real love. When a man is deeply moved by a female presence that changes him, even if he cannot find the words for it, his actions start to shift in ways even he can't control. And the first main sign is in how his focus moves. It's not the simple kind of focus, the kind that tries to impress or get attention back. It is something more small, more real. He starts noticing details that others miss. How you truly feel, even when you say you are fine. How you changed your hair even if you didn't say anything, or if something in your voice sounds different. This kind of focus does not come from a shallow interest, but from a deep bond. Jung believed that true feelings show themselves so we can understand them. That is why this man acts from deep within, not from a plan. He does not need to see you every day to remember you. You might notice that he mentions you out of the blue, asks about something not finished, or just appears without a clear reason. He is not doing it out of habit. His inner self is pulling him towards you. He is dealing with something he hasn't named yet, but it's bringing him closer. This is not being obsessed or dependent. It is emotional harmony. Your energy has touched something in him, and it's starting to speak without words. Another strong sign is how he starts to change when he is with you. Some men act the same with everyone, But when a man is truly in love, even without knowing it, his behavior with you becomes different. He might seem more easily hurt, more open, or even more awkward, because real love does not make someone seem perfect. It takes away their defenses, and that makes them more human, more real. If you notice that he only relaxes his guard with you, if his silences with you feel deep rather than uncomfortable, you are seeing something much more than a brief interest. But there is more. Jung believed that what the soul loves, it protects. And this man might begin to worry about you in ways that don't make sense. He might want to make sure you are warm, that you are not walking alone at night, that you are eating well. It is not about control or trying to look important. It is about something inside him that has started to feel responsible for your well-being, as if his balance somehow relies on yours. And when that happens, when a man starts caring for you with that quiet devotion, without expecting anything back, without needing thanks, it means that deep inside himself, he has already made you a part of his inner world. Even if he doesn't say it, even if he doesn't get it, even if he won't admit it, his soul is already connected to yours on a level deeper than logic. And so if you are seeing these signs, if every word feels true to you, do not take it lightly. Do not be confused by his lack of words. What is happening inside him is far greater than it seems. Stay with me, because what is coming next will show even deeper signs, ones that only a real connection can bring out. There are times when a man does not need to say anything at all for his energy to give him away. It is as if his presence speaks for him. Maybe he has not told you he loves you. Maybe he has not made big promises or plans, but there is something in the way he looks at you, in how his breathing changes when you come closer, in how he remains quiet next to you without needing to fill the space. And that silence is not the lack of words. It is full presence. It is his soul joining yours with nothing in the way. Because when a man is more in love with you than he dares to admit, his body tells all. Watch how he reacts when someone else talks about you. If you are in a group and someone praises you, watch his eyes. If someone speaks badly of you, notice how his face changes. Love does not have to be known to the mind to defend what it cares about. His gut feeling starts working even if his mind is still confused. Jung said that the part of us we don't control has its own ways, and often we are led by feelings we haven't been able to name yet. If a man reacts even with just a look when someone says your name, it is because something inside him has already decided that you matter more than he thought. Another clear sign is in his effort. When someone feels something real for you, they make an effort, even in the small things. It does not have to be huge. It is in how he listens to you, in how he remembers things you said a long time ago, in how he changes his schedule for you, even in how he says sorry when he feels he did not do well enough. That quiet effort shows more than 1,000 words, because someone who does not feel anything does not act. But someone who loves, even without understanding it, makes space. Not because he has to, not to impress you, but because his inner world is already shifting to include you. And here is something very few people notice. When a man is deeply touched by your presence, he begins to change even when you are not around. His daily habits shift. His thoughts become more unclear. He might seem lost in thought, more thoughtful, more restless. It is as if something has been turned on inside him and he doesn't know why, but you are there, present in his mind, in his feelings, in the things that were once easy and now are not. Jung talked about the power that inner thoughts, about a person have to change someone even without being physically close. And you, without meaning to, have become a thought that lives in his inner world. Even if he doesn't say it, even if he denies it, you are already there. That is why you should not be fooled by surface actions. Many men are quiet about what they feel, not because they lack feeling, but because it is hard for them to turn the language of the soul into the language of words. And this is where, if you are paying attention, you can see further. You can feel what he himself has not yet found out, that his heart has already chosen to stay. Because there are more signs that show this silent, yet strong love. And once you understand them all, you will see the whole picture, one that may forever change how you think about love. There is a change that happens in the heart of a man in love that is rarely seen at first. It is slow, almost hidden, but very strong. That change shows up when he starts to drop certain behaviors that once were part of his daily life. Maybe he used to avoid deep commitment. Maybe he always kept an emotional distance from others, or maybe he simply lived in a kind of comfortable focus on himself. But since you came into his life, something has been moving inside him. It is no longer enough to only think of himself. He starts to open mental and emotional space that he was not ready to share before. And he doesn't do this as a painful sacrifice. He does it almost without knowing, as if his soul is adjusting to a new reality calling to him from deep within. Watch if he has begun to share parts of his life with you that he does not show anyone else. I am not talking about simple details, but deeply personal pieces of his story, his worries, his regrets, his biggest dreams. When a man is connected to you on that level, he starts to show his true self without filters, not because he wants you to think he is perfect, but because he is starting to trust in a way he has never felt before. At that point, it is no longer about winning you over. It is no longer a game of trying to attract you. It is a giving up of control. And that surrender, though it may seem small, is the biggest proof that something inside him has shifted. Jung said that the soul needs a mirror to know itself, and you, through your presence, become that mirror. He starts to see you, and at the same time, he begins to see himself in a new way. There is another detail that often goes unseen: how he reacts to your feelings. Not everyone knows how to handle another person's strong feelings, but when a man is truly involved with you, he starts to feel your feelings emotionally without even knowing it. He feels your happiness and smiles with you, but he also becomes uneasy when he senses your sadness. Even if he does not have the right words, his energy shifts when yours does. He may not say, "Are you okay?" every time, but you will see it in how he looks at you, in how his voice becomes gentle, in how he comes closer without knowing what to do, but still wanting to do something. That desire to be with you in your feeling, even without knowing how, is one of the most honest signs of quiet love. And perhaps the most revealing sign of all is what happens when you are not there. Watch how he acts in your absence. If he brings you up in simple conversations, if he saves things to tell you later, if something happens and you are the first person he thinks of in those moments when there is no physical closeness to remind him, and you are still alive in his inner world, his thoughts, his feelings, then there is no doubt he is more in love than he realizes. Because what stays when you are gone is stronger than what is said when you are present. And that is not chance. That is the soul speaking. All of this is not about trying to guess what someone feels. It is about learning to read with your heart. Because love often does not arrive with words or certainty. It comes with signs the soul sends when it starts to recognize another soul. Stay close, because what comes next will show how love behaves when it can no longer be held back. There is a point where a man, even without knowing it, starts to need your presence, not as a habit, but as a way to feel balanced. He may not say it with romantic words or practiced declarations, but something in his energy shifts every time you are far away. Maybe he won't tell you straight out, but you will notice it in his restlessness when he hasn't heard from you, in how he shows up just as you are starting to forget him, in how any reason seems good enough as long as it brings him back into your space, even for a brief time. It is not obsession, it is not being emotionally dependent, it is a real connection, the kind that comes from such a deep place that even he cannot explain why he thinks of you so much. And that, according to Jung, makes complete sense, because the part of us we don't control is not limited by logic or time. When a true feeling takes hold there, it begins to shape thoughts, urges, and choices. And one of the strongest ways this shows up is in how that man begins to think about your opinion, even on things that do not directly involve you. He might start to share his life plans and ask what you think, not to impress you, but because he truly wants to know if they fit with yours. Not as a plan, but because quietly you are becoming a guiding person in his emotional world. He might even start being open about his doubts, his worries, not because he sees you as a therapist or does not know how to manage his feelings, but because his soul has recognized in you a safe presence, someone with whom he can be fully himself, without shields, without acting. And when a man reaches that level of emotional openness with you, there are no more walls. Because love is not built on certainty, it is built on the ability to be easily hurt without fear. That trust he puts in you, even without knowing it, is one of the clearest signs of deep love. But what proves everything is how he starts to picture his life with you, even without you bringing it up. You will notice it when he talks about the future, and without meaning to says things like, "Sometime I'd love to go to this place." And in that picture, you are already there. He does not say it directly, but he suggests it. Those small sentences, those sudden mental images are open doors to his inner self. In his mind, you are already part of the road, not as a short-time visitor, but as a firm piece of his ideal world. And you do not need to pressure him or ask for clear answers, because when the soul loves, it shows in the simplest actions. If he is doing this, if his energy, his actions and his focus are naturally leaning towards you, then what exists is real, even if he does not fully understand it yet, even if he has not found the strength to say it out loud. Because when the soul has already chosen, everything else is just a matter of time. And in that time, you can see with the eyes of the soul what the mind still does not dare to say. Stay with me, because there is still more to uncover. When a man starts looking at you as if you are something he does not want to lose, something begins to change in the way he relates to you. And that change is not shallow. It is not about being more loving or reaching out more often. It is about how his soul begins to shape his world around your being there. Because when a feeling is real, the other person stops being just a part of life. They become necessary to it. You will see it in how he starts making you a priority even without saying it. Maybe he is having a very busy day. Maybe he is being pulled in many ways. But still, he shows up. Not because he has to, but because he simply does not want to not be there. Because being with you, even in silence, brings him peace. And peace is one of the most undervalued feelings in love, but also one of the most important. Love is not just about excitement or passion. True love, the kind that forms in the inner self, the kind Jung studied and understood as a changing force, also shows itself in the calm that comes from being with someone who does not have to change to be loved. When he feels peaceful with you, when he senses that he can drop his guard, that he can be imperfect and still be accepted, he starts to see you as home. Not a physical place, but an emotional safe haven. And when that happens, he starts to do something most people do not notice right away. He starts fitting in with you without you even asking. Maybe he begins to enjoy the things you enjoy. He becomes interested in your passions, your ideas, what makes you feel alive. He does not lose his own self. He just finds the beauty of sharing what was once only his. This is not a coincidence. According to Jung, when two souls start to match, inner borders begin to soften, and that is where true closeness is born. It is not just about being attracted, but about that quiet feeling of belonging that does not need to be explained. Also, pay attention to how he defends you when you are not there. Maybe you do not hear it, maybe you do not see it, but in small talks, in moments when you are not even around, he takes a stand for you. Not because he wants to gain something, but because deep inside he feels that protecting you is part of protecting what he has started to love. Love does not always yell. Sometimes it simply acts. Sometimes it speaks through actions no one else sees. And that kind of love, the one that defends you even in silence, is the strongest of all. So if he does this, if he changes his routines without knowing it, if he cares for you in hidden ways, if he thinks of you before making important choices, do not ignore it. You are facing an emotional truth that even he may not fully understand yet. And it is in that space where the purest part of love is born, in the part of us that has not yet been shaped by fear, by logic, or by past hurts. Stay here because we are about to reach the deepest signs of a love that can no longer hide. And when you reach that point where all the signs start to come together, when you look back and realize that this man has changed without even noticing it, that his actions, his silences, his smallest gestures speak louder than any words, that is when you understand the most important truth, that real love does not always show up with drama. It does not always arrive with bright lights or perfect speeches. Sometimes it comes as a quiet presence, as silent care, as kindness that does not need people to see it. And when a man is more in love with you than he realizes, his soul has already made a choice that his mind is only beginning to understand. Jung taught us that the part of us we don't control does not lie, that within us lives a truth that shows itself through feelings, actions, and signs we do not always understand, but that are clearly real. If you are seeing these signs, if you felt this connection, if something inside you knows that what is happening between you two is not a chance event, listen to that. Trust what you feel. Because often what we call doubt is simply the mind trying to understand what the soul already knows. In the end, what we are looking for is not the perfect love speech, but the real matching of a soul that has quietly chosen ours. The signs are not written in big statements, but in the small change of priorities, in the pull that brings him back to you, even when logic has no reason. Jung understood that the deepest connections go beyond what we are aware of. They come from the place where our true self lives, untouched by fear or careful planning. When a man reorganizes his inner world to make you an essential part of it, when his energy shifts both when you are present and when you are absent, when he offers you his weak side without defenses, that is love before words. It is recognition at the deepest level. And if you are still here, if you have not stopped watching, it is because somewhere in your soul this message is reaching you. Not with empty words or dramatic promises, but with that calm knowing that says this is true. Because when love is real, it does not force, it does not demand, it does not need praise, it simply stays, it becomes steady, and even on the quietest days, its presence speaks loudly. A force that does not try to convince you, but wraps around you before you even notice. That is when you understand that love, true love, is not just a feeling, it is a language, and that language does not need words. You see it in the smallest moments, in how he stops just a second longer to look at you when you are not watching, in how he remembers the things you thought he forgot, in how his look changes the moment you walk into the room. What seems unimportant to others becomes a deep echo inside you. And no, it is not about being perfect. Conscious love is not built on ideal thoughts. Sometimes there are doubts, uncomfortable silences, times of distance, but even in those pauses, in those weak spots, there is a presence that does not break down because what is born from the soul does not shatter with the first problem. Jung spoke of the process of becoming one's true self, the journey toward one's honest being, but he also taught us that on that path we meet others with whom we connect deeply on a level beyond logic. And when that happens, when two people who are healing meet, they do not try to make each other complete. They try to walk together. That man who is more in love with you than he knows may not always be able to say it. He might not find the right words. He might fight with his own fears, with hurts that are not yours to carry, with inner voices saying he is not good enough. But if you watch with an open heart, you will see his actions go against his fears, that despite the fear, he stays, that even in doubt, he never fully leaves, because his soul has already started to see you as home. And when one soul finds a home in another, something deep begins to change. It is no longer about being together out of need, but about sharing from a place of freedom. He is not looking for you to fix him, but to walk next to him. And you, without even realizing it, become a mirror. Someone who shows him not only his darker parts, but also his light. Someone who reminds him who he is beneath all the noise of the world. That is why, when he feels calm with you, it is much more than just a sign of liking. It is an act of trust. an act that, according to Jung, is full of deeper meaning, because we only lower our guard before what we feel is safe, what we feel is real. And if he does that with you, if he shows you his mistakes, his stumbles, his contradictions, do not see it as weakness. It is a form of giving up control that few dare to offer. Many are still chasing a love that impresses, that shouts, that overwhelms. But you are seeing something different. A love that stays, that remains when no one is looking, that chooses without needing a performance. A love that does not promise you the moon because it has already started building you a safe place on earth. And that love, though it may seem quiet, is huge because it does not depend on the moment. It depends on the connection. There will be days when he will not know how to act. He may pull away. He may question if he is good enough for you. But even in that back and forth, something remains. An invisible thread that pulls him back, that pushes him to try again. Because when the soul chooses, the mind finally accepts. And you who feel this, who notice these signs, you are not imagining things. You are receiving a subtle language that only awakened hearts can read. You are standing in front of a bond that goes beyond names, beyond time, beyond certainty. You are in the presence of something growing from within, like a seed that does not need to be forced to open. Maybe he has not fully realized it yet. Maybe he still thinks it is chance or just good chemistry or being compatible. But inside him, another truth is already showing itself. A truth that makes him seek you out without knowing why. Protect you without planning to, make you a priority without being asked. That cannot be made up. That is born. That vibrates. And if the day comes when he is finally able to put into words what his soul already knows, it will be because you knew how to give him space, because you did not rush it, because you understood that mature love does not need to be hurried, that it is not a race, but a dance. A dance where sometimes one takes a step while the other waits, and other times both move together without ever having practiced. In that flow, in that mysterious harmony, the sacred is revealed. That which does not need to be explained, that which simply is. As Jung taught, the most real parts of us are not found on the surface, but in the deeper layers, in dreams, in symbols, in feelings that rise without warning. And love, when it is true, lives exactly there, in that part of the soul, untouched by lies, fear, or fake actions. So if you see him changing, if you notice his habits shifting, his priorities moving, his energy softening when he is near, do not doubt it. He is in love. Maybe he does not know it yet. Maybe he won't say it, but his soul has already picked you. And you who feel it too, remember you are not here by chance. You are standing on the edge of something real, something few ever experience, something that cannot be bought, faked, or forced. A love built in silence, step by step, action by action, until one day, without warning, it becomes clear truth. And when that happens, when both of you accept it without fear, you will not need to promise each other anything because you will already be walking in the same direction, not out of need, but out of choice, out of that deep and quiet certainty that real love does not shout, but it changes everything.